To A to Z Sports, prime time on a Thursday night. Happy football season. We finally got it on the television in front of us. We're going to enjoy the Hall of Fame game with you over the course of this evening's show. We'll take you into halftime and we'll talk about how this preseason has really more meaning than any before it. I'll explain what I mean about that. We'll talk about the importance of this time. We'll get into how many of you degenerates are betting the holy hell out of preseason football right now. We're going to have a great time on the primetime show, so looking forward to having you with us. Before we get things going, I need you to share this show, whether you're hanging out with us on Twitter, Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitch. If you would be so kind, you can share this show, and that would make me very happy. If you are on Twitter, go ahead and retweet this show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That's how you get your Twitter folks involved. If you are hanging out with us on Facebook Live, you can share now to public, and that is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you are on YouTube or on Twitch, please subscribe to the A to Z Sports channels where you can get our live streaming coverage 7 days a week on the A to Z Sports Network. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, throw us a like. We'd love that as well. And now that more of you are here, like Texas Sports 1015, Van Jeffrey, Scott Weaver, Frankie Fackler, I don't even think that's a real name, but it's a great name. We can begin the show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Thursday from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, Two Rivers Ford has been the best in the business. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Promotions on all manner of sports, whether it be preseason football, the Olympics, or anything in between. Plug in the promo code A to Z Sports, and you will find your way to success and many riches in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Brymak Mechanical, B-R-Y-M-A-K, Brymak.com, satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. That is where you go for commercial work, for residential work, Brymak Mechanical. And of course, the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Your dream address without the stress is where you find is what you find with the Ashton team at GaryAshton.com. So, the Hall of Fame game is officially begun. Scott Weaver says the game is boring and Mason Rudolph sucks. Yes, but it's football. Guys, I knew this was going to happen, and I'm at peace with it, all right? I'm at peace with the idea that we all turned on Fox tonight. We all knew that we were going to hate watch this thing about 7 minutes in, and we all knew that it was going to be an unwatchable version of the NFL, but it does remain the fact that it's real, live, in-person football. It's spectacular, as bad as Mason Rudolph sucks. And honestly, as worse as Garrett Gilbert is, because we've just seen Dwayne Haskins. I guess they're getting ready. I can't tell if they're in field goal position or not. I'm just looking at Dwayne Haskins coming off the side. So I'm not sure what's going on. But it is football nonetheless. And, I guess did they try to go for it on fourth down? It looks like they did. Turnover on downs. Either way, it's boring, it's preseason, but it's still football. That is absolutely something that we know we can thrive upon. So the question becomes, your Two Rivers Ford take here tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time. How important is the NFL preseason this year, specifically this year? Please give me your answers on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together over the course of this evening's show. How important is the NFL preseason this year in particular? Let me know on A to Z Sports Prime Time, and we will discuss at length together your Two Rivers Ford take. Before we read some of your responses, Kernick says, "Boo this game. I'm watching Suicide Squad." Well, listen, I'd be curious to know how many of you are actually watching, because I'm dialed in. I've watched every Garrett Gilbert snap, every Dwayne Haskins snap, and every godforsaken snap of Mason Rudolph. I feel no shame about this. Truly, I do not. But it's my job. I cover sports for a living, and I'm going to watch every snap of the Titans preseason. In fact, I've got exciting news about the Titans preseason and season that I'll tell you about when there is a formal announcement made. But in the meantime, this is something that's going to be fun, particularly for the Tennessee Titans, because there's so much that we have yet to learn about the rest of this roster. Your Two Rivers Ford take here on a Wednesday night. How important is this particular preseason? Let me know in the comments section. While you guys do that, I'll tell you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford, who have provided you exceptional award-winning customer service since 1983. Fine American-made Ford vehicles, all new vehicles like the 2021 F-150, the all-electric Mustang Mach-E, and of course, the Ford Bronco, back and better than ever. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet is your destination, just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport. Or you can go through the entire car purchasing process online, if you so choose, at tworiversford.com. How important is this NFL preseason? Let me know in the comment section, and we will discuss at length together. I think the thing that makes this one different, right, is the fact that there's only 3 of them. So there are fewer opportunities for guys to showcase their skill sets as to why they should make it onto the roster. And I think that heightens the importance of the preseason, not by a tremendous degree, but enough that, they need to make serious roster decisions quicker than they might otherwise have. Because with the expansion of the NFL's regular season this year, the three-game preseason becomes that much more important for depth guys.
Just approved by the NFL owners during a virtual meeting happening really just in the last couple seconds. And it is breaking news, the fact that for the first time in several decades, the NFL has changed its schedule. Now, there's still going to be, for teams, 20 games overall, but it is going to be 17 regular season games, 3 preseason games. Each team is going to have 10 home games. When you combine the two, it's really just a matter of, are you going to have 9 regular season home games, or are you going to have 8 regular season home games as it had been in the past? And, this really, Red, is something that has been coming. Breaking news today, obviously, no doubt about it. But the reality is, ever since the pandemic financial situation became clear, ever since we learned that in the new CBA that 17 games was possible when they got at least one new TV deal struck, we have known this was coming. And when we found out about a week or so or a little more ago that the TV deals, the more than a decade worth of TV deals were going to be done, we have known that 17 games was basically going to happen, and that it was going to be a rubber stamp. Roger Goodell making it official in a release just a couple seconds ago, calling it a monumental and historic day for the NFL. For those of us who like football, certainly is that. It means more football. It also means the Super Bowl is going to be a week later than usual, but I'm not sure anyone is complaining, especially because, again, it's more football and it's a lot more money to be divvied up between the owners and the players as well.
It's Ian Rappaport talking about the expanded 17-game regular season and now a shortened preseason as a result. How important is this year's preseason? Let me know on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch as we get ready to go to the Hall of Fame games. Halftime, the Cowboys up 3-0 right now. 3rd and 4, a flag on the field with Dallas, trying to drive. It's been pretty tough sledding. Tough sledding so far. James Strickland says Caleb Farley time. So here is why I think it's, and you can do this by degrees, right? I think it's really important for a lot of teams, but for your knowledge of the Titans and my knowledge, frankly, of the Titans, I think this year is critical. Last year, I took for granted how much more difficult it is, or it was, for me to learn about the rest of this roster in 2020 without the preseason. We did not have the offseason to learn about these guys. We did not have the in-person interactions to be able to understand a little bit better who they are or identify them as guys who may make impact, who may be of impact on the roster in future months and weeks to come. I had no idea who a great many of these players were. And certainly we didn't see them in the preseason. So when the roster cuts were made, you just kind of looked at it like, yeah, okay, I guess that's what they're rolling with. I don't know any better. Why? I have nothing to dispute about this because we haven't seen much of these players at all. But for preseason, it's not necessarily, here's what I'll say. Preseason is a love-hate relationship because I am going to hate watch these games. I'm going to hate every minute of Garrett Gilbert's passes. I'm going to hate every minute of Mason Rudolph fumbling all over himself on getting too cute with the jet sweep motions that Matt Canada was trying to implement earlier in this game. I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to watch every second of it because I want to learn about who's in the league right now, who's around the league right now, who might be available if the Titans cut down their roster and start searching for spare parts. If you care about the roster construction of your favorite teams, then the preseason is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical for the understanding of how exactly this thing works. Bruh, it's on and they are amazing. Says, is it Akias on YouTube? Yes, the football is on and it is amazing. The Cowboys are attempting a field goal and just a god-awful miss from 52 to end. Oh, and there's still a second left on the clock. Brutal. 52-yard miss for Niswander, the Cowboys kicker. So if you're looking for a kicker this offseason, this is apparently not the team to be doing that. Anyway, how important is the preseason? I'll tell you who it's most important for here in just a second, right after I remind you about DraftKings Sportsbook. America's top-rated sportsbook app is DraftKings Sportsbook. And speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold. DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. When you place any pre-event wager of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year. All you have to do is download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code A2Z Sports when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code A2Z Sports to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Promo code A2Z Sports in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So, with the preseason, who is it? How important is it? Buck, was Kaiser that horrible that they needed to sign Barkley? Says Scott Weaver, yes, Deshaun Kaiser was not good throughout camp. And also he banged his hand on a helmet yesterday at practice, so that probably didn't help his cause. I don't think Matt Barkley's like that much better. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were in competition with each other in Cleveland, but I don't think Logan Woodside's going anywhere. People have been trying to get rid of Logan Woodside for years, and the man just keeps sticking around. So the preseason, if you're talking about who it's most important for and how important it is, for the fans, it's not really important, which will be my answer. But for the players, for most of the players, it really does mean the world. It means the opportunity to compete for an NFL roster spot. It means the opportunity to be nationally televised and put good film out there for another team that could potentially pick you up. It is so critical because fans will watch it, will bet on it, we will ignore it or we won't ignore it. We'll do whatever we want with the preseason and we'll dismiss it as just being the preseason. But for NFL players and for the majority of the players, to have this opportunity really does make such a substantial difference for them. Guys like Christian Fulton and Darrington Evans, Rashad Weaver, Logan Woodside, Matt Barkley, players who will be trying to make your roster and who will need to show that they are capable when it comes to depth. Dylan Radins is a player that we've talked about a great deal here in the last couple weeks and months. The Titans' second-round pick out of North Dakota State this year. Right tackle. He struggled in camp. Preseason will be the opportunity for him to try and implement some of the things that he has learned at camp and to prove to the coaches that, yes, while I'm struggling with consistency in practices right now, I can still come out, play fast, play violent, play physical in a game-type situation and show you that I belong with a spot. I mean, he's going to have a spot on the roster, barring a Isaiah Wilson disaster, but show to you that I deserve a spot on, for example, the 46-man game day active roster, that I can be somebody who you can plug in for depth and can play at a competent level. The preseason is Dylan Radin's opportunity to do things like that. Now that the preseason is 3 games, says C. Smith 0607, Will the second game be the starter's main game? Maybe, but like I don't think you're going to see Ryan Tannehill in the preseason. I don't think you're going to see Julio Jones in the preseason. Sure as hell not going to see Derrick Henry in the preseason. I don't think you're going to see Taylor Lewan in the preseason. So like the answer is no. Like it's still going to be a bunch of backups and scrubs. And maybe each team is doing it differently, but here in Tennessee, Mike Vrabel, to put it politely, Mike Vrabel don't play that shit. Like he's been a player long enough. He knows that the value of this team is health, most importantly, not preseason reps. I would say to you that there is you are not going to see any of those players play in the preseason. And if Tannehill goes out there, it's going to be for a series and out. That's about all you can expect right now. Let's move on, though, and let's talk about this particular Hall of Fame game, the one that is currently on television. How much of tonight's Hall of Fame game are you going to watch? Are you going to watch? Are you done after a half? Did you make it through a quarter? Are you a degenerate and betting on every snap, prop bets throughout the course of the game? How much of tonight's Hall of Fame game are you going to watch? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together on A to Z Sports Prime Time right after I tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. GaryAshton.com is where you go to sell your home for more with the best intel in Middle Tennessee. GaryAshton.com is the best in the business for a reason, because everybody else is competing for the same properties and the same information at their disposal. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage goes above and beyond in this regard to help you sell for more if you're in the market to do so. And if you are selling, puts you in a place to have your dream address without the stress of not knowing whether there's going to be inventory left on the market. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. How much of tonight's Hall of Fame game are you watching? Puka says she's watching all of it. Omar says he's done after the half. C. Smith agrees. Keith, 111 Keith to be specific, says 0. The Mr. Goodbar is watching every moment of it. Not at all. I'm staring at you right now, says Brad Lipford. Well, that's because it's halftime, Brad. Don't flatter me, but thank you. Dude Gabriel says, stopped watching at halftime. I'm old and need to sleep. That I respect. Now, here's like my situation is different. I'm going to watch every snap of this game tonight because I'm going to talk about it on the radio tomorrow. I'm going to be back out at Titans training camp tomorrow, by the way, doing the radio show live. But this is going to be a good case study for how it is exactly that teams are going to handle the preseason. Now, the Cowboys and the Steelers that will end up playing 4. The Titans will and every other NFL team will only play 3. But I will enjoy this preseason game, this Hall of Fame game, despite my better judgment, because it is football. I'm an NFL reporter. I want to see the kind of stuff that comes out of this. And also I'm looking for guys who might be available to the Titans at positions of need. I'm still watching it. Scott Weaver says, I'm still watching it. I'm a football junkie, even though it's more boring than watching flies have sex. Well, I don't know how much time you've spent watching fly fornication, Scott, but I'm certain the preseason game is a little more entertaining than that. Let's see. Omar, I can't wait to see Caleb Farley lock down every wideout. Well, the preseason will be a good opportunity for him to go out there and mess around. The BMO 54 on YouTube says the Slowminator made an appearance, albeit a bad one. Yes, the thick kicker, THICCER, the thicker did not make a kick. He missed a kick, so he will be available probably at some point during this offseason. But he made the one that counted for the Titans, to win the AFC to win the AFC South title, which is the only thing that you should really care about at the end of the day. I'm going to watch every snap of the Hall of Fame preseason game. It's going to drive me crazy by the end of it, but certainly I'm going to enjoy it because it's football. Josh says, will Pop-Tart dominate in the preseason? Yeah, I'd be curious to see if T.R. Tart plays in the preseason. He probably will. And honestly, he should. T.R. Tart's a good player. I think that if training camp right now is any indication, T.R. Tart working against backups, it's not a good sign. He's able to make some pretty explosive plays, which I'm sure you're going to like a lot come the NFL regular season. You'll see I'm sure you'll see some opportunities for Teair Tart to play in the preseason as well. Let's wrap up this show and get you back in time for the second half for those of you who want to watch it with a Brymac bounce back candidate. Who needs to bounce back this weekend in sports? Let me know in the comments section on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Who in sports needs to have a bounce back moment this weekend? Give me your answer. And while you do that, I will tell you about Brymac Mechanical. BRYMAK, Brymac.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in position to succeed. They will get you in your comfort zone, most importantly, with great commercial or residential HVAC service. BRYMAK, Brymac Mechanical. So preseason games are an opportunity to buy $9 beer, says 111 Keith. That's so. Will Bud Dupree be ready for week one, says Scott Weaver? I have no idea, Scott, but that's their hope right now. Durka Time says, hoping Darrington shows he can catch and run. Well, the preseason will be a great opportunity for somebody like Darrington Evans, who's looking to hang on to the backup role behind Derrick Henry because he's got some competition right now. He's getting a ton of snaps. He's getting a ton of snaps in the training camp practices because Derrick Henry doesn't do 11-on-11 practices right now. Neither does Taylor Lewan or Julio Jones or a great many of the vets. So, but Darrington Evans, how he takes advantage of those reps is going to play a critical role in where he ends up on this football team on the depth chart. The USA in Olympics gold, says Cody Holzer, talking about the basketball team. Team USA basketball bounce back against France, says Josh. Roselle Russell says Barcelona with a laughing, crying emoji face. Yes, Barcelona lost Lionel Messi, which is unfortunate. One of the greatest players in the history of that franchise. Men's Olympic basketball team bounced back from that loss to Australia, says Dean Ward. That's so. Have you talked about the Titans' new roster moves yet? No, and I'm not going to tonight because it's not a Titan show, C. Smith. Getting ready to cuss, says Puka. Well, probably watching Team USA is going to bring about some less than flattering comments. Who needs to bounce back this weekend? For me, though, well, I just told C. Smith I wasn't going to talk about the Titans roster moves. But I'm going to say Matt Barkley. I'm going to say Matt Barkley needs to put on an above-average performance as one of the new Titans backup quarterbacks. They need to bounce back. The offense has been sluggish. The backup quarterback position has been a liability. They keep trying to unseat Logan Woodside, and Logan Woodside refuses to go down. Matt Barkley this is probably one of the last stops that he'll make in his career. He's been in the league, I think, since like 2013, which is pretty good for Matt Barkley. Over 7-8 seasons at this point. But I would say to you that Matt Barkley has an opportunity here if he can just outplay Logan Woodside. Now, Logan Woodside has yet to be outplayed, so we will see whether Matt Barkley is the person to unseat him or not. Matt Barkley is my Brymac bounce back candidate of the week, BRYMAK, Brymac.com. A short one tonight because we want to get you back in time for the second half of the Titans preseason, of the Hall of Fame game, the preseason game, the first one of the year. Thank you as always for a fun show, a fun week of shows on A to Z Sports Prime Time. We'll be back at it with you Sunday night. The radio show tomorrow will be live at Titans training camp. Chris Jackson, rookie, sophomore DB is going to be my guest tomorrow live at training camp. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will be there as well, 10-1 on 104.5 The Zone, or check out the podcast, The Buck Rising Show, in your favorite podcast app. The Install with Greg Cosell is also available to you. My new podcast that drops every Wednesday, so subscribe, rate, and review for the best NFL film breakdown locally that you can possibly get. Enjoy your weekend. The content's going to keep rolling. I'll be at Titans practice all weekend long. And know that the content is going to continue to flow because we're just not tired yet. No!